Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Erin Sunniva. I am your high priestess of this temple, and I'm here to share my heart, my love, my experience, my expertise with all of you and talk about all of the things that's going on right now for us individually as a collective and how we can develop, how we can do better, how we can grow, how we can heal. So, as we enter this temple, I welcome the presence of our higher selves, our highest selves. I welcome the presence of the highest consciousness into this space, highest love, highest compassion. I ask for the divine to hold us in this light today. And I welcome the benevolent teachers and weavers of the divine plan to grace this space, to support the expansion and sharing of spiritual experience and education. This is the place where we witness the work that we talk about. You may be called to this space today because you are seeking connection to your divinity, or you are seeking a space where you can dive into your inherent perfection and remember how to heal, walk the path of love, and participate in the restoration of the divine plan on earth. And so it is. Welcome, 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 my friends. Indeed. Indeed. Here we are. What a beautiful day. And I'm so glad that you're here. Hi, Sophie. Hi, Wayne. Um, what a beautiful time to be present. This week has been really beautifully filled with joyful sisterhood reunions, Sisterhood of the Rose for me, old friends coming into town, and having healing in the heart in that realm, especially within the sisterhood. And hi, Michelle, welcome. And I read this. I've been experiencing lately, what does it mean for men when there's this grand rising of the women? And I witnessed two very different expressions or shares. One from a man who was just sharing about how difficult it is for men to make friends, to keep friends, to have friends after maybe perhaps they're widowed or after divorce, and that women tend to thrive at the end after divorce, or if they're widowed, that they have a higher probability for living longer. And they also have just a support system that they've held and kept around them. Hi, Natalie. And 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 so, but men are not so good at creating that support. And so I read that, held that, and see that as true. My beloved, my partner, doesn't have many buddies, doesn't have many friends, and he's got a couple of close guys that he makes music with, and we have some mutual friends, but he doesn't have like really solid brotherhood in his life. And my heart hurts for that, right? And then at the same time, just a few minutes ago, I read, and I also shared on my page, on my personal page, a wonderful unfolding for an individual who went to the south of France, went to the land of Mary Magdalene. And this is an individual who is very evolved and leads a lot of retreats and is very much in touch with himself and these higher realms and what's here for him, as well as the restoration of the rays of light that humanity carries, the different rays. And so him and his brotherhood and his connection to the Holy Grail, to Mary Magdalene, to the sacred lineage of light, he is really holding the brotherhood of the rose and holding a masculine anchor within that feminine realm. And so it was so beautiful to witness this after reflecting on, gosh, men don't have a lot of support, and while women are really good at creating support around themselves most of the time, that maybe what's happening for men is actually this lack of internal spiritual connection. And that is really truly available. It's very much available for the men to step forward into their Grail King connection, whether that is connected to Yeshua or Jesus, or that's connected to Sophia and connected to devotion to and reverence for the divine light through the divine feminine and the mother, and that aspect of the what is known as the Christ tree. So just really present to this need to support the men in their holding of themselves, while the women are like, whoa, all this like beautiful opening and connecting and rejoicing and celebration of womanhood, celebration of motherhood, celebration of the feminine. And and this is also, I mean, it's been happening, I think, for the last couple of decades, maybe even initiated by the Me Too movement a little bit, where men have, hi Charisse, welcome, where men have kind of retreated into themselves, being like, oh gosh, we're not, we're not holding the power that much anymore. In fact, we're being dismantled. Our power is being dismantled. Our ability to just do whatever the F we want with women, without women, is also being dismantled. So that is, that relationship, that also that power dynamic with sexuality is also shifting dramatically in the collective for men, but especially for men who are in power, right? And so really bringing this down to a quite a humbling time, a humbling experience for men and for those who are very sensitive men as well, I think, are having a hard time finding center. And so what my offer is to hold space for the men. I have worked with many men in the past to heal their relationship with the Divine Mother, or with mother, right? So you can refer to it as the mother wound if you want. But let's pay attention to what is here in the dynamics between men and women, and this very Jungian concept that our partners reflect our relationship with our parents. But whether or not a man has a partner, he might be projecting his mother wound on every woman that he meets. This is dangerous. And women might be projecting their father wound on every man that they meet, right? Or whatever the nuance is in between, and with your sexuality. So part of our work as women, as awakening women, as priestesses, or as sisters of the rose, is to have an opening energy, a welcoming energy for the men into these sacred spaces that they are not familiar with. In the past, when we have had women-only ceremonies, funny enough, my partner in the past, who is very much soft and in touch with his feminine, was considered the honorary goddess that was sometimes allowed into these spaces, because he kind of walked that in between with his masculine and feminine, and he also felt very safe for the women to be themselves. However, in that space, when you really are having feminine or women only space, actually having a masculine form there will totally change the energy. It will totally change the dynamic and the direction of your ritual. So take that into account. Know that there are things that cannot happen when a man is present. If you're trying to do specific healing with women only, it's not going to happen if you have a man present, but you can still have a man present so that they can witness the medicine that happens with women, so that they can witness the healing that is here when women gather and open their hearts and enter into their vulnerability and share their wombs, right? So there are ways that we can return men to the circle, but it is really important for men to find the circle for themselves and find the men's circles. There are some seemingly beautiful and poignant circles. Sacred Sons is the prominent one in my mind that comes up, that is led through this divine masculine vision of allowing men to be vulnerable, allowing men to break down their shields and their barriers and their self-preservation, their protection, right? The ego that keeps them from being vulnerable. So it is really powerful to watch men soften and feel and then rise up again in their power and in the rage that they might be feeling, that they haven't been able to express because it hasn't been safe or whatever is needed, right? There are also things that cannot happen for men, that they cannot process, that they cannot move through if a woman is present. This is why male only space is so necessary. And he has a great comment. Natalie is absolutely right. Sometimes men do embody their divine feminine much better than women. And this, interestingly enough, this is more about society than necessarily about those individuals, because society has been forcing women to step into our masculinity due to the very much orchestrated feminine movement of the 50s and 60s that pulled women out of their traditional place, whether they wanted to or not, right? That pulled them out of that place and said, oh, you actually can work. You can go have a job, and then there would be more taxes and income for the government to consume, while they're also shifting and forcing the shifting of dynamics and internal balance for the men and women. Whether or not you agree with nuclear family and traditions within gender norms, we're not necessarily talking about that. What we're talking about is women being forced into their masculinity because of the feminine movement, which sounds a little bit counterintuitive and totally paradoxical, because it is. We as women have multiple opportunities to enter into the workforce. First is when we get out of school, right? And we're ready for it. The next time is after we get married, and then something is different. Our energy is different. Are we continuing our work in that way if we have a job, right? And then the big hurdle is actually returning to work after having a child. And there are women who want to have it all because they have been cultured to do so, especially in the United States, to go right back to work. No, you don't have maternal leave. No, you don't have the ability. You have to keep paying bills. No, you have to pay for somebody else to take care of your child. This whole situation is forcing women out of their internal balance as well as the men. Because part of the internal masculine health is providing, is taking care of his family. And however freaking difficult that is at this day and age, that is nature. That's the nature of the man. When he co-creates with his partner and he creates his, progeneration, then it is intrinsic within him to protect and provide. And our society has removed that ability for him to do that solely, while the woman can nurture and take care of the children in the way that them as a pair, as a unit, desire for their children to be shaped and sculpted. But instead, we're forced to send our children to childcare, send our children to public school, square their circle, make them fit into the job track and the rat race that is continuing to rob them of their balance of masculine and feminine energy. And this is where there is this fall of the masculine health of boys and men. It's overridden, right? It's overdriven for the men to understand the balance with their emotions, to have balance within themselves, allowed to be vulnerable, allowed to need space, right? And so much we force our children, society forces our children to push through whatever it is you're feeling and do the job, get the job done. Right? So our children aren't even being raised with a feminine nature of being respectful for what is in the moment. Right? So I would like to be a stay-at-home mom and homeschool, but it is a blessing to be able to do that. And I made sure I found someone who could give me that. That's wonderful. That's so wonderful and so important. So this, this ability to be able to be home with your children is almost foreign in this day and age. I was also incredibly lucky for the timing of my children. With my eldest, I was with her, for 2.5 years. So I was not able to homeschool, and we're discussing it with Elijah and Angelina. Incredibly social creatures, not to say that homeschoolers don't get to socialize, but we are sticking to Waldorf right now. And thank goodness for that we were also, able to be at home with our kids until, up until they were 2.5 and entering into preschool at that age, which has really served them in a lot of ways, but especially Waldorfian preschool, nature setting, emotional intelligence, proper pacing of things, and really actually knowing where children are in their development and not forcing them to be anywhere that they're not. So having societies and cultures that hold honor and balance within the men and the women is how we move forward with health, in spiritual health, emotional health, mental health, physical health. Comes down to us being true to our nature and not being forced into society's design. And this is very much what Mary Magdalene taught and teaches us now. That, if you read the the book Mary Magdalene Revealed, then you would have heard about Thecla. And Thecla, Thecla, Thecla is a biblical woman of history who followed Paul. So after Yeshua moved on, we'll say, um, uh, and the apostles were on their walk and spreading the teachings of Jesus, Thecla was drawn to Paul and desired to work with him and learn from him, and he kind of ignored her. And she was really trying to give up everything. She wanted to be, an ascetic and be in that total devotion. She wanted to be baptized, and Paul would not baptize her. And she would beg him. She would follow him everywhere, wherever he would go, and teach the gospel and whatever they did, and share the medicine of Yeshua. And she wanted it for herself, and Paul continued to deny her. And even to the point where she was about to be forced into marriage to a merchant who attempted to rape her in the street to force her to marry him. And people just watched. They watched this woman be attacked in the street, and including Paul, who saw this happening. And in that moment, Thecla realized that Paul was not going to save her, and that no one was going to save her, and she had to save herself. And so she did. So she fought with all of her might. She saved herself in that situation, and she realized, I don't need any of you. I am powerful. In that moment, what she did was she called upon God. She called upon the divine spirit to come and save her. And that is what saved her. Her own personal connection to spirit, to God, to Christ. And so when she experienced that, the strength that came to her in that moment, in order for her to save herself, she realized, I don't need any of you. And I certainly don't need a man to save me, because look at me, I have my own connection to God. And so she took herself to the river and she baptized herself, and she had her own magnanimous experience in the water, in her renewal, in her own personal connection to God. So this is very much like this, oh my goodness. We really can't rely on each other to be in caring balance with what is, and to just show up for each other with what is needed. No, we're being forced to fend for ourselves. We're being forced to step up in this way. And whether it's wonderful that we are realizing our connection to God and our connection to baptize ourselves, our ability to do whatever it takes, we don't want to. We want to have a community that is loving and caring and whole. And there's more to Thecla's story. More ways that she saved herself, more ways that she showed up and said, you actually have no power over me. I hold all of my power. And I have even more power because I have connection and God is with me, right? So there is this reflection of how, even so, now we are being forced out of our nature, or maybe to connect with some of our nature, in order to survive, in order to grow, in order to feel healthy and happy with community, in order to provide for ourselves, to protect our families. We can't actually rely on nature and the traditional cycles of nature and what is available to us, because this whole inverted matrix experience won't let us. So what do we do about it? What do we do about it? So I I believe that what is being asked of us is to hold more of these spaces. Hi, Marissa. Hold more of these spaces that are inclusive, as well as calling people to their nature. So, like every other week, I hold the Sacred Sisterhood Circle. And this is a space where women can come and be women and share and maybe process a little bit, but really just be seen and witnessed, you know? And in this energy, in this space, we can soften and relax and be, right? Be our natural nature. And so when we create more spaces like this, then we remember who we are. We remember how we are and what we're doing here. Because the world is just chock full of distractions, chock full of things that you're supposed to be doing, and the way that you're supposed to look, and the way that your life is supposed to look, and all of these things. And it's not true. And we have to literally like fight against this forced structure and break it apart from the inside. And so the way that we do that is by coming together. So, I can create more circles. I can invite more men into these sacred places, but we need the men to be creating these sacred spaces for yourselves more and more. So if you are a leader of some kind in your masculine form, looking at you, Wayne, you know, and you have the ability to maybe focalize energy in some way, perhaps there is a calling for you to bring the men together just to be. Maybe there's not even an intention, but like we need to have more men knowing each other, being able to rely on each other. Wayne. So it's just, like this, I want to be able to create these spaces for men, but it's not my responsibility. My responsibility is to the women. I want, there's something I really want to share. And gosh, I'm going to really share something from my early days. And so in my 20s, I was introduced to ceremony and ritual through a queer community that was outside of the town where I went to school in Southern Oregon. And I went to Southern Oregon University, and there's this commune, like 60 miles north. And I was invited to the land, as it's referred to, and experienced community in this space. And I was 21, 22, 23, very active there. And in that place, it was mostly gay men, some lesbians, some in between. Everybody was pagan, right? Everybody was alternative in some way. And there were like a handful of heterosexuals just kind of tossed about, right? And this organization you may have heard of was created by the Radical Fairies. So maybe you've heard of the Radical Fairies, or a California tribe, of in the late 70s and 80s, where gay men really allowed themselves finally to like dress up and perform and play. And so this is where drag started. Drag came from kind of almost a circus type of, playfulness and performance, and this, kind of fringe culture was created, and the group organized itself to call it enough to have a name called the Radical Fairies. And they also organized themselves enough to create a nonprofit and buy some land. And so that's what this land is. And so being the land being owned by an organization that you can only be a member of the organization if you self-identified as gay male. So I was like very much welcomed and loved in this community, at a very formative age where I was not very confused about my sexuality, maybe curious about women a little bit, but pretty sure that I was straight, and being surrounded by unavailable men. It was actually not very good for me. And I loved it there. I felt loved. I felt like I could really be myself there in a lot of ways, but I actually didn't know myself because there was a whole part of my own experience that was lacking, that was missing, that a lot of other people were having, which was free love, right? And I'm over here like twiddling my thumbs, be like, is anybody attracted to me? you know? And wanting to explore, feeling my body thriving and wanting to, just have a sex life, have a life, right? And still like coming from a lifetime of being very awkward, very insecure, very unsure, and also unsure about my sexuality. My mother was a lesbian, is my mother is a lesbian and was with a woman by the time I was 4 after she divorced my father. So there was a lot of confusion for me. And the most difficult part was in that space, they had the opportunity to call what they referred to I'm not going to say the word. I don't need to say it. It was F only space. And so basically gay male only space is what they were calling. And when somebody would need that male only space, it meant that I had to leave the land. And I lived there for a little bit, for a few months at one point. So if that male only space was called, I had to leave. And I went into town and stayed at a friend's house for about a week until they were satisfied and they were okay with having a woman around again. That was really painful for me. I still feel a lot of emotions around it. I actually wrote a whole song. I wrote a whole song about it, and I'll share it on let me see if I can, maybe I can even find it right away. But it was like this this feeling of how can you be discriminating within the place where you are escaping discrimination? And because that's what it felt like. I was being discriminated against because you need male only space and I'm the only woman here and my presence is disturbing to you. Ouch. Whatever the thing was. As more of an adult, I can completely understand if if someone needs space, if they are queer and they take issue with the opposite sex and in order for them to feel good, they need to have that space. I can totally respect that. And I have more respect for it now. I was just in my hurt feelings, before. But it's really important for us to also just look around and check and see if you're really where you're meant to be. And I say this within the context of women only space that's needed, male only space that's needed, and me in my desire to belong to a community, to this community that had really, lovingly embraced me. And then I was, like, kicked out. And I didn't have anywhere else to live, thankfully, I had friends in town that could take me in that were also part of this community. But in upon reflection, I wanna reach out to that young woman, young Erin, and say, "Queen, you are not in the place where you will thrive. You are not in the place where you will be seen, honored, and recognized. You will not." Because a lot of these individuals take issue with women, have mommy wounds. And what I didn't realize is that a lot of those wounds were uh, being projected onto me at times, right? And even 20 years later, I have friends coming to me, former friends now, who came to me and said, "Oh, this whole situation was toxic." It's like, yeah, that whole situation was toxic. And I'm so glad that I made it out. I am so glad also that I can value who I am in completion. And upon retrospection, I can also see how my unfolding as a medium, which began at that age in that place, was totally shut down. That my opening of my channel was refused by the people who were my friends. They thought that I was just in my ego when I was actually being blasted wide open and channeling and not realizing what was happening and having these out of body experiences. And by my sharing my experience, I was being egotistical to these people who were not having these experiences. So while I was there, I was so very young and impressionable by these people whose opinion I cared a whole lot about. Well, at this point in my life, I literally want to just say fuck you to every single one of them. Every single one of them. How dare you? How dare you diminish my experience? Right? How dare you call me egotistical because you are not having the experience that I'm having? And I am blasting open, having these very, maybe externally seeming dramatic, but totally internal, expansive experiences. And 20 years later, I'm finally giving full breath to my channel, full breath to myself as a medium. And honestly, interestingly enough, experiencing with other friends who are seeing this happen for me and receiving them not being happy for me. And experiencing them not being interested in the information that I just put on the table. Let's change the subject. So I'm really in this in this place of like trusting that I am in the right place for sure, with the community that I create around me, with the women that I work with the men that I work with my beloved partner, and the community and friends that I surround myself with. And if you are an individual who seeks to degrade or demean another person simply because of their experience that has nothing to do with you, but they desire to share something with you, I really hope that you will be open to receiving that share, whatever it means to you, that you are able to really witness and honor someone in their evolution and their opening. It can be incredibly detrimental to children, to adults, when they try to share in their vulnerability and get shot down or get ignored or get a refusal to be believed. This is how we create a society of psychic, shamans who are stuck in mental health facilities because nobody believes them and nobody will honor their gifts. Luckily, I was raised by individuals who honor the gifts that humanity holds and that I carry, and so my foundation is a family of support. And the individuals who don't support me don't stay in my life. This is why we need to have sisterhoods and brotherhoods of support, of witness, of saying, wow, you're going through that. Wow, what an incredible step or part of your evolution. Keep going, right? That's all we need. That's all we need. We need someone to say, yes, and I give you permission to receive more of yourself. Go on and do it. Go on. And it doesn't mean that you have to become invested in what the person is sharing or that you have to be present for all of the things. You know what I mean? People just need to be seen and acknowledged so that they can keep going, right? There's this horrible culture in social media as well, that when someone shares something beautiful about themselves, that there's these, keyboard warriors that just want to totally degrade and negate that experience for that individual, and it's just disgusting. But if we can lean into community and we can have solid people around us that believe in us, that even just with one sentence of support can encourage us to keep going, then our society can have a potential future that is not just filled with AI and yucky trolls, So this is the full circle of this share and this conversation, is that we need to continue. And I've wanted to give up on my sisterhood circles. Sometimes nobody shows up, sometimes it's just one person, sometimes it's 15. I have no idea who's gonna show. I have no idea what to expect. And still I hold it and I'm committed to it, and it's because Mary asked me to. Literally 8 years ago. I just ran into the woman who shared the message with me, I did a psychic session with this woman, her for me. And she said, well, Mary is here and she wants you to hold sisterhood circles. She wants you to start now. Oh, God. That was 8 years ago. So here we are. Free sisterhood circles every second and fourth Sunday, including this Sunday, where we're going to have a very healing ceremony for the sisterhood with my very sacred divine sister, Sarah Lee Sophia. She's been on the podcast before. You might remember it was kind of a wild ride, that podcast. And she's very dynamic, so working with her is really, really powerful. I wonder if I share my screen, if you can hear, if we wanted to listen to that song together. I've never done that before, so I have no idea. Let's see here. Some screens let you share audio. Look for share audio in the next window. Thanks for sticking with me here. Let's see. Yeah, this one. Also share audio. Also share tab audio. Okay, I'm gonna share this song with you. We're gonna listen to it together. This is the song that I wrote while in exile at the age of 23 or 24. Um, when I was living in community and they called male only space. So here is the song. Oh, wait. Hang on. Let me just change my sound here real quick. Thanks for sticking with me, guys. Hang on one second. I have to change the speaker because I can't hear it. That might affect things. I'll put in my headphones. And if you could, my friends, just let me know that you can hear it when I play it. Can you hear me too? You see this body before you. You think it's just me and not you. My body is mine and yours is yours too. But I am not me and you are not you. You see this chalice in my soul. Drink the wine and drink it all. Tastes so sweet, like control. Drink too much, it takes its toll. Expression flies with the wings of freedom. Close your eyes and we can become no family of fools, but a tribe of angels. Seeking to love and free ourselves. Is it my body that offends you? Where is this fear inside of you? I am the mirror, take off your shoes. Step through the looking glass, it's time to choose. Are you looking for a place to hide? Are you ready to open wide? Take off your mask, place your fears aside. Time to breathe deep and step inside. Expression flies with the wings of freedom. Close your eyes and we can become no family of fools, but a tribe of angels. Seeking to love and free ourselves. Now the tables have turned, and the crystal is red. Now you're sitting here in my stead. Will you do the work you always planned to do? Are you hoping someone will do it for you? I'm tired of waiting for the tides to turn. Am I Salem's witch? Is it me you burn? I'm bound round the chains too tight, but in this skin I won't turn to fight. Expression flies with the wings of freedom. Close your eyes and we can become no family of fools, but a tribe of angels. Seek it to love and free ourselves. So there's that. Oh, where did my theme go? There we go. See my roses. Yeah, so that was a very poignant song, and it felt like, wow, I'm a witch being exiled again, a witch among witches being exiled. And yeah, so quite a journey. And we, as we grow, we continue to reflect on our lives and reflect on our choices and the ways that we have walked. And I do not regret having spent time with that community. But I do regret the self-abandonment that I practiced there, that I didn't realize that I was doing, so that I could, be adored, so that I could be appreciated, so that I could be, a unique person that was there, that was special. And, that's rough. We do that, right? We abandon our truths. We abandon our own intuition just so that we can be welcomed in places. So I have learned a lot. I've grown a lot. And it's interesting to have a completely different life. I still have queer people in my life, right? But I'm not immersed in that culture. I'm a mom. I'm a mom and a priestess. And so I'm surrounded by women. I work with women constantly. And this is where the healing has been in female space. And we don't really know what we need until we get it sometimes. And that's definitely how it's been for me. And I've watched myself, the last 15 years and less, of being immersed in female only space, being in this healing sisterhood, of healing also these parts of myself where I need to be responsible for my own acknowledgement. I need to be responsible for my own self-appreciation. I'm not going to seek it outside myself. I'm not going to ask for it. I'm not, as much as I love attention, and I do have that Leo North node and the Sag rising, I've got this fire in me that loves to sing, that loves to perform, that loves to be seen and loves to be witnessed and heard. But if that is happening at at any expense to my authentic self, to my true self within my heart, then it's fake. It's a fallacy, right? And so I say this with you, um, to all of you, to learn how to be true to yourselves and to create the spiritual family or the community around you of people who really do love and appreciate you, who really do want to know more. It's like I'm visiting with people who these are old friends and they're important to me, and I'm still experiencing an interesting aspect of me sharing important things that are happening, and it's not even like registering with some of them. Like even one of the women who has been very poignant in my life and even trained me in a lot of things, and I try to, share like what my world is like, what my weekly experiencing of channeling my dragon for an hour for a group of people. And she didn't know what to do with it. She was like, oh, hmm. And literally turned her head and started talking to the person next to her. Didn't ask, like, oh, what's that like? Or how's that working out for you? Or what? Just like, huh. And just turned and it's like, oh, okay, I get it. You don't understand. That's okay. You're not interested. Registered, right? Registered. So I have new boundaries that have developed over the last few years. Um, around like not opening my heart up and being totally wildly available for people who are not wildly available for me, or sharing important things about my life with people who aren't interested. Why should I do that? If you don't want to know what's going on with me, if you're not asking, then I'm not going to offer. That's how I am, right? And I also have a 1-3 1-3 generator in my human design, which also means that I have to be invited. So it's even difficult for me to even talk about myself unless someone is asking me about myself, because it feels uncouth. It feels improper, like, and it's not speak when spoken to. It's don't share anything intimate about yourself unless someone wants to know. Even if you're sitting with people who have known the deepest, darkest parts of your being in the past, they're not that anymore. And it's hard. You're right. Especially, and these are also with individuals that I have cultivated, created together, learned from, grown together, taught to as well, sacred space, in sacred ceremony. But this is the lesson. We're not in that space anymore. Those people are not in my space anymore. They're not a part of my community. So maybe they can't even fathom. They can't even begin to understand what it's like or what is happening, right? See you, Michelle. Love you. So be true to yourselves. Recognize where your community is and what you need in your community. And I know a lot of people, and including like single mothers, who don't feel like they have community, but who are constantly continuing to perpetuate the lack of the village. They stay individualized. They have a hard time reaching out, right? They, and not always, like not always is this the case. A lot of times women are asking for help and no one is showing up because we have been bred, we have been cultured outside of that village community support system. We're raising our children apart from each other, apart from each other, right? So we need to be cultivating village again within our community, and not just our, you know, limited only online community, right? Physical, in person. What is your support system? Develop it, curate it, call it in, have dinner parties or potlucks and picnics, and invite people that you barely know, but you want to get to know them. Just invite them. Create opportunities for your community to come together so that you can feel that circle of people around you, and that you can within that you can develop the relationships that are supportive, where people want to know what's going on with you and they want to lift you up, and where they also need to be seen and desire to be lifted up. Hopefully you can show up for them as well, and be that, and acknowledge them and lift them up higher and higher. And when we do that, we create a culture of support that expands outside of our village, because the more people that remember the circle, the more people that remember going to the well and connecting with others, right? Or the women remembering the red tent, remembering our moon time that we would always share together. This is really, really, really important. I love, Wayne, I love that you have seniors in your life. I love that, that there are also people who need a younger generation to reflect upon and share with. Also super valuable and super needed. So I encourage you to stay connected. Come to the sisterhood circle, all my wombed ones. Come to the circle and feel what it's like to have this support, the reconnection that is always here. That's, and it has to be maintained. This is why, like, the relationships of like my friends that are visiting, like, are not the same as they used to be, because the lack of maintenance. That's just, friendships do need to be maintained, even if it's once a year or whatever it is in your capacity. Maintenance is necessary. Checking in is necessary. Curating, and it's all about balance. It's not it's not like there needs to be more feminine than masculine, or more potency within the matriarchy, than the patriarchy, but balance between the two. So you are more than welcome to join us at the gathering of the Sisterhood of the Rose. Let me copy this link for you all and put this here. As well as, if you feel like you need to have healing around community, we can always heal those, alchemize those origins of pain within community, because I'm sure that my neck is like, hey, how about this? Your communication center. But we might be carrying around painful beliefs from past life experiences within community. Community can be dangerous. Community can kill you, right? Like, if you have a persecution wound, that witch wound, right? We watched our communities betray us. So it's totally understandable if you have had an experience like that. It's really important for us to heal that, so that we can weave intricate, localized community support. So it's easy to have virtual support right here. And I love that you all are here with me. But we need to be curating localized support, so that when the grid goes down, you have people that you can turn to for support and help. And not just when the grid goes down, if it does. Excuse me, hiccups. Okay, my friends. I feel complete. Thank you for listening. Thank you for so much love to you. Good luck with everything, Topher. You are always with us. And I I want to just turn to prayer. This is what we do in the temple is we pray and we connect to the divine. And just say I am so incredibly grateful to the Marys, to the divine feminine and the way that they walk in my life, to Celtic Mother Danu, Mother Sophia, Kuan Yin, Mother Mary, Inanna, Isis, these forms, Hathor, these forms, Sekhmet, these forms of potency, healing, and power. But power in the stillness, power in the yin, power in inaction, power in presence. Thank you, divine maiden, mother, crone, aspects of woman, divine, sacred, holy grail, giver of life, mother of mothers. Thank you for helping us to find our spiritual homes and communities. Thank you for supporting us in our sacred return to connect to each other, and especially to ourselves, to be able to preserve ourselves, not abandon, but be so present and authentic that we can speak to what is true in the moment. And if no one else is holding us, let us hold ourselves. Let us form beautiful healing communities of strength, vitality, in balance with nature and the nature of our own selves and needs. Thank you. Thank you, Mother. Thank you for supporting our daily lives, our abilities to provide for ourselves and take care of our offspring and each other within the sisterhoods and brotherhoods and in betweens. In all of the places where we need support, may it be had, may it be held. May we honor our gifts, our arts, our offerings. Reflect them back to us so that we can honor them ourselves. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for this life, this opportunity to grow, to share, and to heal together. And so it is. Thank you, friends. Natalie, that is how my sister does it. She does them upside down. That's very Heyoka. My sister does that. I tone. It's a toning for me, is how I control the diaphragm. Love and blessings to all of you. We're going to end at 11:11 my time. If you would like to join us for the Dragon Tribe's Rumara Golden Dragon Healing Circle, please reach out to me directly. I would love to widen the circle of experience, have more people experience this really, really wonderful, wonderful time with my dragon Rumara. And so reach out to me. That is at the top of the hour now, noon time here in Mountain Time, 2 p.m. Eastern. So much love to all of you. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next week as we enter the temple together. So many blessings. Take care.